Welcome back, everyone. Hope you are all having a great week. All right, why is it that no matter what you do, when you start editing, you have no idea where to start, where to put each clip, and why you put them in that specific place? Well, watching me break down this video right here while explaining my thought process and choices behind the transitions, camera movements, clip placements, sound design, and much more should make the process 10 times easier. All right, so let's get into it. Let's check out the video together for the first time. Let me see a timeline right here. Yeah, love this part right here. Drop. Woo! Alright, starting from the top, the first thing we gotta do is find the right song. This is gonna determine the entire pace for the rest of the video. As you can see on the timeline, I cut a lot of my clips, all of these parts right here, to the beat of the song. And depending on how you do this is really gonna decide whether it's gonna be a fast edit, a slower one, a cinematic one, and so forth. So at the start right here, you can tell that this isn't that same EDM song that we hear later in the video, like right now. This is entirely on purpose. Let me explain. From the first 5 or 6 clips here, we're really showcasing what the venue is like during the day. It's pretty laid back. It looks like your typical country bar out in South Carolina. It does not look like the EDM scene at all, which is why right here I included like a country song to just kind of catch the viewer off guard. On audio track 3 right here, we can see the country song playing. And what I did to make it seem even like older and as if you were really there is I added a reverb effect to it, and I added the outside club effect. Let's hear what that would sound like before and after this. This is without it. And then if we add it back, completely different. Sounds echoey, and my idea was to try and make it sound like a radio was playing. My idea here, I didn't really think of it at the time, was that when we see the DJ's name on the board, to kind of showcase that this isn't going to be your typical country night at this bar. There's a DJ and he's going to bring a lot of fun. So we start with some cinematic house music. How I did that actually is I picked this country song here and I broke it up a little bit to really add to that like glitch effect. You can hear that right here. And then we get right into that cinematic house song. Basically doing a song switch, and to me this is my take on trying to catch the viewer off guard and keep them interested in the video. Oh, I hear country music, but then all of a sudden 5-6 seconds into the edit, a little switch. Like, what's gonna happen next? I thought this was gonna be like my typical country edit for this bar, everything that I normally see from this place. So we took the viewer's expectation, did something completely different with it, and I decided to use a cinematic, slower song for this video. And the reason for that being is this venue looks a lot lighter, like there's a lot of light here, and there's no smoke, no lasers, so I couldn't really pick a big house, techno, EDM song. The venue just didn't look like that. It was really bright here, honestly. So I know I had to take a different approach with it, and that's the reason behind me choosing this song specifically. I don't just want to breeze through the start of this video because I know some people probably have some questions. I actually did film this on a little camcorder. This is originally what the footage looked like from that camcorder. So if we unhide all of these, you can see that I added a lot of different assets to really sell the effect. One of my favorite things being the halation I added in this video. You can see right here that I got it from the channel blur in the effects panel right here. I basically just added 40% on the red, and it's gonna, once I unmute this, give a little red halo effect around certain things. So you can really notice that in the clips, like right here where it says share house, all over here. And on top of that, I added little film burns like you can see right here. To sell it even further, I added this film mat, some 8mm film grain. Combining all of that just through trial and error is gonna make it feel a lot more cohesive. And if you're wondering where I found these assets, I found most of them over the years just from online different sources that were entirely free. So I've compiled them into a pack, which you can message me on Instagram for, and I'll send them your way. So now that I was able to explain the introduction, let's get into once we start moving into the house music, the real fun part of the edit. The country song ends, Boom, we move right into the song. We're letting the audience know this is a different night. There's a DJ here and he's gonna take the venue to another level. That's what we start showcasing with this part of the edit. For the first time in the edit, we finally see the DJ too, which is super cool because we're introduced to his name. Now we see him. That's also great for the DJ and for the venue, of course. Cool, at this point, we're introduced to the DJ and we see this sick effect that I basically did inside of After Effects. I just tracked the text. This was my attempt at trying to grab the viewer's attention once again, as this was filmed during spring break. How I tracked the text was basically in After Effects. So what I'll usually do is I'll grab like this clip here, for example, and then just click replace with After Effects composition. Once you do that, After Effects pops in. Now we're inside of After Effects, and what you're gonna need is a really steady shot in order to pull this off. Because what we're gonna do, hop into the effects panel right here. You wanna load up 3D camera tracker, which is in the effects. We'll load that onto this nested clip right here. Click OK. It's gonna start initializing the shot and seeing if you can place a camera track on here. Now, this isn't always gonna work if your shot is too shaky, but you kind of just got to do trial and error and know whether a clip's going to work or not. From this point on, you're going to see all these little X's pop up. If they don't, you mess around with this little slider right here because they might be really small and or not shown for you. You can make them bigger, and then this little target right here that has to do with the target size. So we'll make this a little smaller. We're basically going to try and find a surface where this text can easily track onto. Once you do that, you are going to right click on the mouse, click create text and camera. From this point on, a little text layer is going to pop up right here. And then what you'll do from there is type in your text, in my case, spring break. You're going to want to make sure you're not in caps lock so it refreshes. Then you're basically just going to mess around with these parameters here, moving it around on the y-axis, the x-axis. If you click on this little rotation tool, it'll bring about some different things as well. You can make it go like this, move it forward, move it backwards. And then to sell this effect just a little more, I added this glow effect. Let's look what it looks like without this. Really bland and boring. It feels like it doesn't really fit in the environment. So I turned that back on. I just keyframed the glow threshold. When I move this along, you can check out right here and you'll see all the little things I did with the keyframes to really make it come to life. Anyway, we'll cancel that. And before you cancel it, you actually want to click save. And when you do, you'll end up with something like this. Maybe not your first time. It definitely took me a couple tries over the years to get this right. Really make it feel like it was a part of the environment. But I feel like I pulled it off here. Just something different once again to grab the viewer's attention. Now we've pretty much set the scene. We've done all the establishing shots. We grabbed attention one last time. Now we want to continue that. I've also added some camera movements by scaling into the clip from going to 100 to 110, so we're slowly scaling in. Let's continue that by continuing to move forward into the next shot. You can see the camera slowly goes forward, but what we're also doing is I want to introduce one of my favorite techniques, continuity. We're going to pay attention to the hands here. Now granted, I set the shot up. Sometimes you're going to have to do stuff like that. I asked them to blow a kiss towards the camera, and this is how that usually goes. Right here, this is it. Good example. We're going for it and we got it. Nice. With the camera movement, pulling back. Anyway, with this one, we pushed forward. We're going to pay attention to the hands. We started continuity with hands. Let's make sure the next 5 or 6 shots continue something to do with hands. Throwing the hands up in the air, for example. Hands in the air, hands in the air. DJ clapping his hands. Continuity based around hands. What I've also done is pulled up this rule of thirds here. If we scale this up, you're gonna notice that I'm trying to grab attention to the center of the frame. We see that already here with the spring break, putting it right in the center. The girl's blowing a kiss in the center. All of these shots right here are going to be in the center of the frame. This conveys importance and a lot of other things, but it's going to make it easier for the viewer to stay focused on your video, want to keep watching, and a lot more. Going back to continuity, this sometimes makes your edit a lot easier because if you don't know what clip to place next, well, you know, if I'm going to keep my subject in the center of the frame, the next shot should be with them in the center of the frame, like I did right here. But also, if we're focusing on hands, let's just make sure that all of the next shot have something to do with hands, throwing your hand up in the air, the DJ clapping. So actually focusing on techniques that are going to help your edit even better, like continuity, and then just focusing on what shot do I need next to match the previous shot should help you know exactly what to put next. Now just get your different shots from moving around the club all over the night and try to find shots of people doing something with their hands. You can set these up like I did with the 2 people blowing a kiss. You can get somebody to wave to the camera, do a cheers towards the camera. And yeah, I made use of this all throughout the edit, but something we'll see more often without a doubt. With this part right here, I added another technique that I really enjoy, speed ramping, to add some interest and just spice up the shots a little more. This is just great. Slow motion with the clapping. Absolutely great shot. If we listen to it with the music, it's at like the perfect time because I need just a little more room before the next beat. This shot also just breaks it up and keeps it interesting. We're not just doing the continuity inside of the audience and or on the side. We're also incorporating the DJ into it somehow. Instead of seeing just what the audience is looking at, now we also see what the DJ is looking at. Overall, providing a new perspective, keeping it fresh, keeping it interesting. The last thing we want is for the video to get repetitive, especially with partying. I mean, how much partying can we watch? So if you're interested in checking out all of my favorite places to go in the club to get unique shots, check out this video right here where I basically show you how to incorporate shot variety into your video to keep it interesting. But yeah, we basically want to continue this, jumping to the back of the venue, behind the DJ, getting an angle from the side, incorporating the DJ into this, doing it from behind, getting in front of the DJ. A great example here is filming from the crowd's perspective and getting the foreground elements. That's definitely one of my favorite things to do, like I did this shot right here. It just really shows that it's packed and that it's going to be a good time because there's a lot of people there, which is obviously a great look for the DJ and the venue itself. So shot variety really pays off. Last thing I want to mention for this part, the beat editing right here. Cut, 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 switch it up, do something different, keep it interesting. Cut, 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 cut. Long clip, short clips, catching the viewer off guard. Again, that's going to be a constant theme throughout this video. Throughout this entire edit, we're just fighting to keep the audience's attention. So we're incorporating all of these tricks that I'm talking about to help out with that situation. Editing to the beat and switching it up and playing around with that is also going to help the brain want to keep watching more because it's going to be able to predict what's going to happen next. Right here to the beat. Bop, 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 bop. It knows what's going to happen because it recognizes that you're editing to that one beat. But don't do it too much because obviously this can get repetitive too. Doing things like this throughout your entire video is going to make it much more enjoyable for the viewer and make them want to watch more without even really knowing why. It's completely subconscious. We've done the continuity, we've done the subject framing, we've done it for a good 5-6 seconds now. We got to do something to switch it up from being repetitive like I just said, which is exactly when I include one of my favorite signature effects, this photo click. Something different, catch them off guard. In my opinion, right here, these 5 to 6 seconds is like the perfect amount of time before I do something different. Because imagine if I just did that for the entire video, just editing to the same beat, doing the hands, and they're gonna click away at that point. That being said, knowing when to switch things up is just a feeling that's gonna come with time. However, editing to the beat of the song, like I do here with these markers, is gonna help you with this. Always be thinking of new instruments that you can be cutting beats to. Example, paying attention to the vocals, maybe the hi-hats, maybe this time the bass hits within the song. Instead of editing to the hi-hats, maybe this time try and do the vocals later in the song. Anyway, realizing that it was starting to get a little repetitive, I looked further in the song and heard that it starts speeding up right here. I thought this was a great example to do something different, which I was able to accomplish by doing my signature photo click method. And that photo click transition is being played right now on the screen. And if you're interested in how I do it in a bunch of different videos, not just this one, and a way more in-depth tutorial, check out this video right here where I break it down from the ground up. For the sake of this video, what I'm really doing is I have a bunch of these film assets that I got from Jacob Owens' film store, and you can see it on the screen right here. This is them, and I have a couple of them, and I kind of just place them along with the photo so we can see what that looks like here. It's in color now. Yeah, I added a little black and white guy. And that's cool and all, but to really make it come to life, I add a bunch of photo click sound effects, which we can see all layered right here. I basically found the black and white effect right here. I dragged it onto an adjustment layer. This is what it looks like originally. This is with the black and white. To me, this makes it feel like a flashback. And I also add these WGFX transitions, which I found online somewhere. I've mentioned it exactly in that photo click transition video that I mentioned earlier, where exactly I found it. This really makes it seem like a camera shutter, in my opinion, that like, and you absolutely can't overlook the sounds that I included here. Like there's all kinds of risers, like we can see right here. And then bass drops and hits, and yeah, it's just all stuff that really makes it come to life. There's a couple other things that I include in that video that's just way too long to mention here, but yeah, it's a dope way to grab the viewer's attention once again. In my opinion, it's just a cool way to switch up. We've seen a bunch of videos, now there's some photos. But yeah, after that, we move along into the edit, and then there's a bunch of clips that are to the beat of the song once again, and these seem to be about 15 each. Let's take a look at the next clip. 1, 2, 3. So 5 times 3, 15. About each 15 frames, which would make sense because that's how songs are structured. They're like by different beats and whatever. It makes sense. So that's that for the photo transition. We got a sick clip here of the DJ. Let's go. Getting the actual audio bite, figuring that out somehow because you only hear in the club. We do a cool cheers transition here. I make it a little more realistic by adding a cross dissolve so it actually fades to black, because I'm using a pretty wide lens here, so I want to give the effect that covering the entire frame, and I kind of masked that by doing the cross dissolve and really selling the effect that we covered the camera and now we're in a completely different place. I always think that's a super cool trick to do within videos. After that shot right here, we see a little shake. It's basically just playing around with motion blur and the actual transform tools. But yeah, I think it's a great way to add some emphasis into your video, keep it interesting. I mean, it looks so clean. After that, you can hear that the drop is coming. There's a lot of anticipation. We start editing faster. Pop, 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 pop. Going to the beat again. Woo! Yeah, let me explain that quick. All throughout here, making sure to include all kinds of different shot varieties so we're not just in the crowd, different angles around the club, keeping it interesting. We also hear a whoosh right here, but we'll get into sound design a lot later. This one just sounds so good. We're moving the camera fast, so we should hear this too. Yeah, that just sounds clean. That's also in the sound pack that I've been talking about. And then we've also got that crazy zoom in effect right there. I basically did that in After Effects. Let's actually check out how I did it. I don't know After Effects well, so what I really did is I just found 5 clips and I made them each 3 frames long. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3. I scaled them inside Premiere Pro because I don't know how to do it in After Effects. It's already nested, so unfortunately you can't see it, but I set the keyframes from 100 and then I put it at the end of the 3 frames to 200. So it's scaling inwards, and then I did that for another 4 clips. So I made sure that they were all 100 to 200, and then I applied that same keyframe to every single thing. And what I really did to sell the effect was add motion blur to every single clip, and that's just going to make it feel so much more cohesive. When you're done with that, you get this right here. I think it looks sick. Sometimes I add a black and white filter on it too, but it's always great to do right before the drop. Speaking of the drop, let's get into that. I absolutely love the drop on this edit. This is where you want to save your most energetic and fun shots and crazy camera movements, because you gotta go crazy with this part. Adding to that zoom effect right here, if we check it out frame by frame, obviously we're zooming in. So for the next clip, this is honestly a really static shot. If we remove the keyframes, there's not much going on here. It's just very still, which doesn't match the super fast-paced zoom in that we had. What I did again is something that is really great for edits and takes your edits to another level is playing around with the scale properties. So since we zoomed in here, I start zoomed in and I scale outwards. Really makes it feel like those clips belong together, which is something we'll get into more with speed ramping, really making the clips feel like they connect together. This was like a start of introducing the speed ramping and all of that. Because I guess this is like sort of a speed ramp in a way. It feels like you're going crazy fast. That really sells the effect, doesn't make the transition so jarring too. Let's check that out all together. Scale back out. Now we see a bunch of speed ramp clips. My absolute favorite thing to do, speed ramping. So I always get a bunch of questions about this actually, and in order to do speed ramping, you're gonna need to be shooting in at least 60 frames per second. 120 works as well. Since I was doing it within my edit, I film at 60 frames per second in 4K on the Sony a7S III. Speed ramping is my absolute favorite technique just because it adds flow to your video. It just, like I said before, makes the shots connect so well. You go fast to slow to fast into the next clip. You slow back down. I mean, this right here is great. The head movement going from the left to the right, and then everybody going right. It just all blends together so well. And if you just put them together normally without the speed ramping, it wouldn't blend so well. But if we check it out one more time like this, woo, it looks clean. And the drop is fun. We're having a blast with it, but it's also important to not make it too repetitive. So we switch it up right here. Then we get right back into it. But we also do a speed ramp and a little transform effect to just make it an insane clip. I knew when I was first editing that I wanted to save this clip for this exact moment right here. And I don't always get that feeling, but with this one, I knew it was like the best clip of the entire night. So crazy fast camera movements. Now let's slow it down. We also don't want to keep the repetition up too much. I love having a shot like this to break things up and show what it was really like to be at this event and venue. Granted, this is a great clip. It wasn't like this the entire night, but that's what we're trying to sell. Normally, I call this like a live action raw clip, and I'll sometimes include the audio as well. It just didn't work for this edit, so I just did it this way instead. And because we don't have the raw audio, I decided to spice it up with a little speed ramp, slow down, back up, ooh, and I add a little transform. So as you can see at one point, we scale in, I add a bass hit along with the scale in to really sell the effect. Whew. All right, let's hear it one more time without me making the sound effect. Right there, I messed around with scaling it back out to the original size. It just didn't work for some reason, so I only did the scale in. And you would never notice otherwise, so it worked here. But I know a lot of people are gonna ask how I did the scale in. I basically use the transform tool, and I'll use the transform tool a lot because I know you can scale in with the motion properties, but when you use the transform tool, you can do this little thing right here, and this is gonna create motion blur. And motion blur you usually can't achieve inside of Premiere Pro, only After Effects like we did for that quick zoom in where each clip was 3 seconds long. Quick, simple, but you see that right here. If I turn off the transform tools, you just don't get the motion blur. Granted, we're not zooming in anymore, but if it wouldn't work, trust me. It's just not the same. The zoom in also makes the clip a lot more dynamic, so we're not just looking at one long clip. But what I also do that I like right here is you can see this is the actual song. If we mute everything else, we just hear this. Ah, you heard that, right? Then we pull it right back in. You know what I did? I added a little low pass filter. But you know what we paired that with? With the zoom. Once we zoom in, whoo. Yeah, I mean, that just hits so good. And for the low pass filter, I just love incorporating it into my edits wherever I can. I just think it's such a great effect. Doesn't make the song so boring and one-dimensional. Effects, low pass, you drag it on, you mess around with it. Now I got 2, we don't need to, gonna delete that one. I set this low pass to about 2000. Let's hear what it would sound like if I put it at 100, for example. Yeah, that ain't it, chief. You just mess around with it, do what feels right. We put it to 200, let's put it back to 2000 in case the client wants revisions. And yeah, we paired this up with the whoosh, the zoom, and then the rest of the video is honestly just building on concepts that I already touched on in the rest of this video. This right here, same thing with the transform tool. We zoom in, we zoom out. I could have done without that. Again, I just thought it made the shot feel more dynamic. This would be the shot without that. I think it looks great too. Granted, I also added camera shake, as we can see here. If we don't do the camera shake either, let's see what that would look like. Yeah, I mean, it's good because the song has that little like thing there too, which I also knew because we're editing to the beat, and I thought it was a great opportunity to just throw in a quick clip right there. I mean, this looks good too. But how much better does it look with the camera shake and the transform tools? Let's check that out. Woo! Yeah, we like that. We like that. That's nice. I love doing this too. We saw a super static clip right there. And in order to break it up and grab attention again, we do a little spinning, which is so weird because normally I wouldn't do a spinning shot without another spinning shot, or if you do like a really quick zoom in, and I didn't have that shot. As we can see right here, the shot's pretty static, so I think that's why I did the zoom in here, because it feels like we're like, so the next clip should also, if you know what I'm saying. If you're a video editor, you know what I'm saying, right? Zoom in, ooh, then we zoom back out, so I don't have to continue the zoom in because I don't have another clip that's zooming in. I hope I'm making sense. Did I also add a scale out here, or did I just zoom out? It looks like I used her movement of going this direction along with the moving out to compensate. I mean, that's great. That's the best thing about having shot variety. You can do things like that. I mean, we gotta pull out the rule of thirds. Because the reason those two clips work together so well is because the subject, he's kind of in the center. His arms there. We're paying attention mostly to the arms. So I guess you could say we start looking over here. You know, I honestly, maybe I can explain why those two clips work together so well. But, I mean, it works, and that's the thing. It's just trial and error and finding out what clip comes next and which one fits well. And we can obviously do that with beat editing. You hear it right here. Bam, 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 bam. I mean, that's just adding to the beat. And if you want a precise video explaining all of that, it's as simple as dropping M on the keyboard. But if you want a more in-depth video, you can check out this beat editing video right here, where I break it down completely in depth and how I do it on multiple different projects, not just this one case scenario. Right here too, this works great with this clip right here, because we were just watching continuity with her moving from left to right, or whichever direction this guy's moving, I guess from left to right. We see like a little clip in between. It's super quick, but I just thought it adds. And actually, these are two entirely different clips, but I wanted to match the motion. That's actually a cool trick that I did right here. This is just a whip that I did from like another video, moving my camera like crazy. And we start the camera movement here a little bit, but yeah, having that clip in the middle, it feels like one, and it looks like a camera shake. Just works together mad well. Then we got towards the end, this guy's jamming out. We speed ramp it a little bit. I got a whole video on speed ramping too. If you want more in depth on all of this stuff, I mean, I have the whole series. I'm gonna link it in the description at the top down below, so you guys can check that all out. It's a lot to explain to every single one. I mean, I've been recording for like an hour and a half now, so who knows how long this video is gonna be. But yeah, I wanna make sure it's perfect. I wanna make sure that I really pick my brain and try to explain why I do certain things. He's jamming out. These girls are jamming out. Continuity. And honestly, to add to that, I know it's the drop and the drop gets hectic, but throughout this entire video, we've really been adding effects and ideas and continuity and speed ramping all on top of each other, and that's what makes a great video. It's not just putting the photo effect in your video, but it's knowing how to use continuity along with speed ramping and your camera movements to just create a cohesive video and make all the shots feel like they belong and connect together. That's what just really makes it a whole nother level. And I forgot to mention too, doing all of those things that I just mentioned and editing them to the beat of the song too. I mean, that's it. That's it. But if you don't got a hang of that, what I just mentioned, incorporating all of those stuff into one video, don't worry just yet, because I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years and it doesn't come easy. It took me a minute. I mean, if you're interested in checking out this video right here, I react to my first Nightclub video back from 2019, and let me tell you, it's interesting. But I really love doing that video because it showcases that I was in your shoes not too long ago as well. I had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, yeah, that video is hilarious. But looking at the timeline here, there's a whole bunch of effects that I included, and that's in the series as well, and they just again really immerse the viewer inside of the video. If we take a listen to this video without any of the sound effects and just the song itself, it's an entirely different video. Let's check that out together. This is just the video with the song, no audience cheering, no camera clicks. All right, I'm gonna shut up now. Oh yeah, we did a low pass filter when the DJ turns the knob too, but shut up. There's so many things. Yeah, I mean, we got the point. All right, sound effects on. I mean, we even heard it here with the, this was cool. When we see the spring break, I added, I'm having so much fun. It's so cool to reflect on this. I added a neon sign. Listen. And it's not needed, but it just makes it feel alive. Anyway, let's hear it again with the sound effects on. You hear crowd cheering. Now you heard it. You heard that too. Shut up. Okay, now let's hear it without any of that. No sound effects. Okay, sound effects. You hear the crowd again. Whoosh. Woo! I mean... Alright, let's... One more time. That riser. Yeah. You get the point. There's a whole video on it, so I'll let you guys check it out if you want a more in-depth tutorial on sound design. I'll link it here. But yeah, these videos have been doing super well on my channel, and I want to do something that I haven't done before and critique this video. What are things that I would have changed now that I've slept on the video for a couple days and not edited it within like 48 hours nonstop? So starting off with the introduction to this video, I like how it came out. It was honestly tough to pull off, if I'm going to be honest with you. It would have been hard if I didn't have my VHS camera as well. That really sold it. But I didn't know how I felt about the country song. I never really did something like this before. And I didn't know if the radio effect was really going to sell it, but it worked well, especially when I added like this glitch right here by let's listen to that just by itself. It's as simple as it looks. What I really did is I just extended the song, and I always do this for like glitch effects or when I try to like end a song or song match, delete parts in between 2 frames, 1 frame, and you get this. This VHS intro is not something I can do with every single video, but it matched this daytime vibe, slower setting. I love breaking barriers and trying new things, and that's what really keeps an edit fun for me. And the reason I was honestly questioning myself so much with this video is because the theme nowadays is to create a super fast, attention-grabbing intro, and I didn't do that, so I went kind of against the grain, but it's also what I love doing, just not doing what everybody else is. I think it worked well. Alright, secondly, really letting you into this video. This was a hip-hop kind of night at this venue. This was a DJ, and I chose an electronic song to edit to. You can't really get so creative with hip-hop songs in this genre of filmmaking, in my opinion. That being said, it was super hard to get people to dance like they do in a rave, like throwing their hands up, which I needed for that continuity and whatnot. It also didn't have all the kinds of things that you see in these typical nightlife EDM videos, like smoke and lasers, for example, but despite that, I think I was able to pull it off not so bad. It looked like it was a rave night with a DJ, which is exactly what he wanted. He didn't want it to be a hip-hop night. He's trying to focus on house music. It's something we talked about. The venue loved it. He loved it. I loved how it turned out. Hopefully you guys too, because you're watching this video. This was also really fun because of the song I chose. I think the pacing and the flow of the video and the edits to the song, it wasn't a heavy EDM scene, so I couldn't choose a Fisher or a Chris Lake or a Wax Motif song like I usually like to do, house, EDM, techno. So I went more with this cinematic, slower, but still upbeat song, and it panned out well. I love this song. I just found it on SoundCloud. My playlists are all linked in that same video about the beat editing. So if you want to find music similar to this, I have playlists with 300 songs that I've all used in edits and or I plan to use in the future, and I'm always updating them. My last critique for this video, I feel like it was a little short. It's coming in at a total of 36 seconds. I was super busy at the time, and the crowd wasn't as crazy as I made them look in this video actually, which I think had to do a big part with the hip-hop night and it not being as upbeat and energetic as your typical rave night at other clubs and or festivals like I usually film at. It was hard to get the enthusiasm out of the crowd, and there wasn't so much interaction with the camera as I usually like within my typical videos. That might have played in with the length of the video as well. I also just didn't really have that many shots, and I knew what that was coming up when the drop happened, which is unfortunate because I had so much fun with the song. I might just have to reuse it again in the future. Anyway, with that being said, I am going to let the timeline play out for the rest of this video so you guys can check out all the different moving parts and the speed ramps and whatnot, but I also want to give a little behind the scenes of this video because I get a lot of questions about my camera settings and what I shoot on and so forth. Like I mentioned before, I film in 4K 60. This wasn't always the case. I filmed plenty videos in 1080 60, like in that video about the one that I reacted to and whatnot. That was on the 80D with a 50mm lens, so that says a lot. I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, so I do got some nice stuff at this point. Filming on the Sony a7S III. As for my aperture, I try to keep it anywhere from 2.8 to f5. As for the lenses, I bring about 3 to every single shoot. I have the 8mm Rokinon, the 14 to 24 Sigma Art, and I have the 24 to 70. All of the lenses I just mentioned, if you want to grab one for yourself, are linked in the description below, so you can check them out for yourself. And another question I get a lot of the time is, out of those 3 lenses, if I could only pick one, because you're just getting into nightclub videography and or photography, which lens would I pick? And that would honestly have to be the Sigma 14 to 24 f2.8. Now my reason being, it's the absolute perfect lens for this line of work. It's just wide enough to get behind the DJ and to get really tight spots, but it also doesn't have too much distortion, and it's a f2.8. However, if you don't only do this line of work, you do commercials and whatnot, and you're only looking for one lens for your new camera, I wouldn't recommend this at all. I knew I really want to do this line of work, but I had to pay bills, so I was doing plenty of commercial shoots alongside this. And it was so stressful trying to film things at 24mm. It was a mess. So only if you're focusing on concerts, nightclubs, festivals, filming artists, then only get this lens. If you're doing anything else, I would not recommend it. All right, so I mentioned that I didn't have that much footage. If we check this out right here, I had 108 video clips, which may seem like a lot, but also the party didn't really start for a good time, and I didn't use any of the daytime stuff. Another 18 clips right here. It didn't really start getting rowdy probably until here, so 108 minus 42, I really only had 50-60 clips to work with. If we go further behind the scenes and we go into the sequences, you can see that I usually work with 2 sequences. So what I'll normally do is I'll drag those 108 clips onto the timeline. We get something like this. We can see that it was 58 minutes of footage, and then what I'll do from there is we'll take these away. I'll put those all in the timeline like I just did, and I'll start chopping them up. I basically chopped up 58 minutes worth of footage and turned it into 5 minutes of only the best clips. And then what I'll do from there, I'll usually click Command X to cut that, paste it on the timeline, see if this clip works there. Yep, that's actually how I move the camera. I don't just use old transform tools. Let's actually just check out this entire clip. Move it from left to right, and then I'll probably take it and move it from right to left. At this point, my voice is absolutely fried. I think this ended up being a pretty long video compared to normal. We can check out the final timeline just once more over here. Pretty much recorded that in one sit-down session. If we open up OBS, we're at 1 hour and 46 of recording, more or less. So if you made it this far into the video, dropping a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated, because now I gotta edit this and make sure it's uploaded for Tuesday. Also, let me know in the future if you'd like to see more videos like this, because I've kind of strayed away from them a little bit, but they end up also being the best performing ones on my channel. And if you have any other questions about stuff that I didn't cover in this specific episode, keep in mind that I basically made an entire series, episodes 1 to 14, linked at the top of the description, breaking down every single thing that I just talked about in this video entirely in depth, in like another 10-minute video. So like sound design, for example, an entire 10-minute video on only that, super in-depth, super specific, and even a free sound pack in that video. That series is a massive help if you're just starting out. I'll leave it right here. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll catch you guys in next week's video. Peace.